All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about some of those common, everyday habits you might have, the things you might even think are a little weird, and connect them to a really powerful toolkit for making sense of the world. It's all about shifting from those little quirks to having some real crystal clear thinking.
So let me just start by asking you this. Do you ever talk to yourself? I mean, really find yourself muttering your thoughts out loud, maybe working through a problem by just talking it out when nobody else is around?
Well, it might feel a little odd, but get this. That habit is actually a sign of a brilliant mind at work. Seriously, it's a technique that legendary thinkers like Albert Einstein used to organize their thoughts and get a handle on really complex ideas out loud.
Okay, how about this one? And be honest, does your desk, your workspace, look less like some pristine minimalist picture and more like, well, a creative hurricane just passed through?
And it turns out, a cluttered desk isn't necessarily a sign of a cluttered mind. Not at all. For innovators like Steve Jobs and Mark Twain, a little bit of chaos was actually fuel for their creativity. It helped them make these unique, out-of-the-box connections they might have missed otherwise.
So, we've got talking to yourself and the messy desk, but the list just keeps going. Doodling during meetings, being a total night owl, reading every single day, actually valuing your alone time, even doing mental puzzles for fun. Do any of those ring a bell? Because these aren't just random quirks. They're all habits that are consistently linked to highly intelligent people.
When you put them all together, these habits, they point to something much deeper than just a personality type. What they really show is an underlying drive, a constant, active pursuit of knowledge.
This drive actually has a name, and it's a big one: philosophy. But all it really means, literally from ancient Greek, is the love of wisdom. At its core, it's just about asking big, fundamental questions. So in a way, you can think of those quirky habits as your own personal, informal way of doing philosophy.
And if we zoom in a little on that love of wisdom, there's a specific field called epistemology. Now, that sounds complicated, but it's really just the study of knowing itself. It asks two simple questions. What even is knowledge, and how do we get it? And that question right there is what helps us go from a general feeling to a practical toolkit for learning.
So let's talk about that toolkit, because loving wisdom is a great starting point, but having the right tools to actually get it and get it efficiently, well, that's a whole other level.
Picture this. You're faced with a super dense, jargon-filled scientific paper. It looks intimidating. What's your first move? Do you just grit your teeth, start at word 1, and plow your way through to the end? Because I'm telling you, there's a much, much better way.
Okay, this is a total game changer. Don't read a paper like it's a novel. You start with the abstract, that's the little summary up top, then you jump straight to the end and read the conclusion. You need to know where the story is going. After that, just look at the pictures and graphs. The figures often tell the whole core story visually. Only then, once you know the main point, do you go back and dig into all the dense details in the middle. It's about getting the main message first, not getting lost in the weeds.
All right, here's another awesome tool for your kid, the PQRST method. This thing transforms reading from just a passive activity, letting your eyes glaze over, into an active hunt for answers. First, you preview the material. Then you form questions based on the headings. Then you read specifically to find the answers. Then, and this is key, you summarize it in your own words. And finally, you test yourself on those questions you started with. It works.
Now, this next tool might challenge a study habit you've had your whole life. Most of us use what's called blocking. We study all of topic A, then all of topic B, and so on. But all the research shows that interleaving, which is mixing up related subjects, is way better for long-term memory. It definitely feels harder while you're doing it, but trust me, that's the feeling of your brain actually building stronger connections.
And our final tool is all about busting the myth of rereading. We've all done it, right? Just reading our notes over and over. It creates this false sense of confidence. But the testing effect proves that actively forcing your brain to retrieve information by quizzing yourself, that is one of the most powerful ways to lock knowledge in for good.
Okay, so we've got these habits that show a real drive for knowledge, and now we have this toolkit of techniques to actually acquire it. But let's pause for a second and ask, why? Why does any of this stuff really matter right now, in the real world?
It matters because the world we live in is just overwhelmingly complex. The real purpose of building these mental skills isn't about acing a test or just sounding smart at a party. It's about being able to navigate the absolute flood of information that hits us every single day.
I mean, just think about the kinds of headlines you might scroll past on any given day.
You've got famines, floods, economic crises, political instability. These are massive, tangled, interconnected issues. And honestly, just looking at a list like this can make you feel completely overwhelmed.
And this is where it all connects. That toolkit we've been building, the reading strategies, the study methods, that is your defense against that feeling of being swamped. It gives you the power to break down these huge topics, find the real story, and move from a state of just passive anxiety to one of active understanding.
And that brings us all the way back around to that love of wisdom. When Socrates said the unexamined life is not worth living, this is what he was talking about. Using our toolkit to understand the world around us, that's how we examine our own lives and figure out our place in it all.
So, you've got the toolkit, you're ready to go? The only real question left is the one right here in front of you. What are you going to examine first?